Captain Marcus stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, watching the stars through the main screen. The ship was huge, almost 2 kilometers long, and carried the best weapons the Deathworld Alliance could build. Around him, his crew worked, quietly at their stations. These were not ordinary people. They came from the hardest worlds in the galaxy. Lieutenant Amy came from Earth's toxic wastelands. Her skin was pale from years of living underground, but her eyes were sharp. She could spot danger faster than any computer. Beside her, Chief Engineer Ben worked on the scanner readings. He grew up on a world where acid rain fell every day. His hands were scarred, but they could fix anything. "Captain," Amy said, looking up from her station, "I'm getting something strange on long-range sensors." Marcus walked over to her console. The screen showed empty space, but there was a small dot that didn't belong. It was too big to be a ship, too small to be a planet. "How far?" Marcus asked. 3 light years out, sir. It just appeared." That was impossible. Nothing could just appear in space. Marcus had been fighting for the Alliance for 20 years. He had seen many strange things, but this was different. "Ben, can you get a better reading?" The engineer's fingers flew over his controls. His face went pale. "Sir, this thing is massive. 3 kilometers long, maybe more. It's not showing up on any of our databases." Marcus felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The Alliance had records of every known ship design in the galaxy. If their computers couldn't identify it, that meant trouble. "Set course for the contact. But keep our distance." "I want to know what we're dealing with." The Iron Resolve turned toward the unknown object. As they got closer, more details appeared on the screens. The thing was dark, so dark it seemed to eat the light around it. Its hull was smooth like black glass, with no windows or markings. "Sir," Amy said, her voice tight. "It's moving, heading for the Outer Rim colonies." Marcus grabbed the communications console. "This is Captain Marcus to all Alliance ships in Sector 7. We have an unknown contact. All units maintain safe distance and observe." 3 other ships appeared on the scanner: the Burning Sky, Stone Hammer, and Deep Strike. Each one carried crews from different death worlds. The Burning Sky was crewed by the Korax, a race of people with crystal-like skin from a world of endless earthquakes. The Stone Hammer belonged to the Vorth, who lived on a planet where the gravity was 3 times normal. The Deep Strike was human, like the Iron Resolve. "This is Captain Ryan of the Deep Strike," came a voice over the radio. "Marcus, what are we looking at?" "Unknown ship, 3 kilometers long. No match in our databases. It's heading for the colonies. Should we try to make contact?" Marcus thought about it. The Alliance had rules about first contact with new species. But something about this ship made him nervous. It was too quiet, too dark. "Send a standard greeting signal, but keep your weapons ready." The radio operator sent out the Alliance's universal greeting, a series of mathematical patterns that any intelligent species should recognize. They waited. Nothing. "Try again," Marcus ordered. Still nothing. Then the dark ship did something that made everyone on the bridge step back. It stopped moving. For a few seconds, it just hung in space like a dead thing. Then it turned, smoothly, silently, until it was pointing right at them. "Sir," Ben said, his voice shaking. "It's scanning us. But I've never seen scanner beams like this before." The screen showed strange energy patterns flowing from the dark ship. They weren't like normal scanners. These beams seemed to pass right through their shields like they weren't there. "All ships, back away. Now," Marcus shouted into the radio. But it was too late. The dark ship fired. The weapon wasn't like anything Marcus had ever seen. It didn't shoot lasers or missiles. Instead, a wave of blackness spread out from its front. Where the wave touched empty space, the space itself seemed to disappear. The Stone Hammer was caught in the edge of the wave. The ship simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing. Not even wreckage. "What the hell was that?" Ryan screamed over the radio. Marcus didn't answer. He was too busy trying to understand what he had just seen. Ships could be destroyed. They could explode or break apart. But they couldn't just stop existing. All ships Emergency jump. Get us out of here. The 3 remaining ships activated their jump drives and disappeared into hyperspace. Behind them, the dark ship continued toward the colonies. 2 hours later, they met at the emergency gathering point. The 3 captains appeared on Marcus's main screen, their faces grim. "Report," Marcus said. Captain Ryan spoke first. "We lost contact with Colony 7 15 minutes ago. Last transmission said something about the sky turning black." Captain Vera of the Burning Sky added, "My people are saying this thing isn't natural. The energy readings are all wrong. It's like it's made of something that shouldn't exist." Marcus nodded. The Corax had senses that humans didn't have. If they said something was wrong, it was very wrong. "We need to warn the Alliance Council," Marcus said. "This isn't just a new ship. This is something else." They sent out emergency signals to every Alliance world. Within hours, reports started coming in. The dark ship, which the computers had labeled the Harvester, was moving from system to system. Every place it visited went silent. Admiral Kane's face appeared on the communication screen. He was old, with scars covering his arms from his years on Earth's poison worlds. His eyes were hard. "Marcus, I need a full report. How many ships are we dealing with?" "Just one, sir. But it's like nothing we've ever seen. It can make things stop existing. The Stonehammer just disappeared." Kane was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sending you all the data we have. It's not good." The files appeared on Marcus's screen. Colony 7, gone. Colony 12, silent. Outpost Red Rock, no response. In just 6 hours, the Harvester had wiped out 3 entire settlements. "Sir," Marcus said, "what are your orders?" "Find out what this thing is and how to stop it. The Alliance Council is meeting an emergency session. Every world is scared. If we can't stop this ship, it could destroy everything we've built." The communication ended. Marcus looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. These people had survived the worst worlds in the galaxy. They had faced radiation storms, acid rain, and crushing gravity. But now they faced something that could erase them from existence. "Amy, I want you to analyze every piece of data we have on the Harvester. Ben, check our weapons. See if anything we have might work against that black wave." "Sir," Amy said quietly, "what if nothing works? What if we can't stop it?" Marcus thought about all the people living on Alliance worlds. Humans, Corax, Vorth, and dozens of other species. They had all found homes among the stars after surviving, the hardest planets in the galaxy. They had built something good together. "Then we find another way," he said. "We always do. That's what makes us different from everyone else in the galaxy. We don't give up." But even as he said it, Marcus felt a chill. The Harvester wasn't just a ship. It was something ancient and hungry, and it was coming for all of them. Outside the bridge windows, the stars looked different now. They seemed smaller, more fragile. Somewhere out there, the Harvester was moving through space, turning worlds into nothing. The Alliance had fought pirates and hostile aliens before, but they had never faced anything that could simply erase their existence. The war for the galaxy's survival had begun, and the Deathworld Alliance was the only thing standing between the Harvester and the destruction of everything they loved. Marcus looked at his crew one more time. They were scared, but they were ready. That's what people from Deathworlds did. They faced the impossible and found a way to survive. "All right, people," he said. "Let's figure out how to kill something that shouldn't exist." The hunt for answers had begun. The Alliance Council room was full of scared voices. Leaders from 50 different worlds sat around the huge table, all talking at once. Admiral Kane stood at the front, his old face grim. On the big screen behind him, a map showed the galaxy. Red dots marked where the Harvester had been. There were too many red dots. 17 colonies, Kane said, his voice cutting through the noise. Gone in 3 days. Not destroyed, gone. Like they never existed. Commander Lisa stood up. She was young for a commander, but her mind was sharp. She came from Europa, where the ice storms could freeze a person solid in seconds. The cold had made her think fast and clear. "Sir, I've been studying the attack patterns," she said. "The harvester isn't random, it's learning. Each attack is more efficient than the last." She pressed a button and the screen changed. It showed the harvester's path through space. First, it took 6 hours to destroy Colony 7. By the time it hit Colony 12, it only took 2 hours. At Red Rock Outpost, 30 minutes. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. "It's getting smarter," said Captain Tom from his seat. Tom was a legend in the Alliance. He had survived the acid mines of Kepler 442b for 15 years. His skin was tough like leather and his eyes could see in almost no light. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Admiral Kane walked to the window. Outside, they could see Earth's moon. It looked small and fragile. "There is something," Kane said slowly. "Something we swore we would never do." He turned back to face the room. The sleepers. The room exploded with voices again. Everyone knew about the sleepers. 50 years ago, Alliance explorers had found them on a dead world at the edge of the galaxy. Ancient aliens in crystal pods, sleeping for millions of years. Their technology was amazing, far beyond anything the Alliance had. But their guardian machines had made it clear. Wake them up and face the consequences. "You can't be serious," said Captain Nina from the Vorth delegation. She was built thick and strong from her high-gravity world. "The Guardians warned us. They said waking the sleepers could destroy us all. And if we don't wake them, the harvester will destroy us anyway," Kane replied. Lisa stood up again. "Sir, what if the sleepers are hostile? What if they're worse than the harvester?" "Then we're dead either way," Kane said simply. "At least this gives us a chance." Captain Tom raised his hand. "I'll go. If someone has to wake them up, it should be me." "Tom, you don't understand what you're volunteering for," Nina said. "That world is cursed. No one who goes there comes back the same." Tom smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "I've been to cursed worlds before. They made me stronger." While the council argued, the harvester was moving closer to the core worlds. It had learned to move faster, to strike harder. Each colony it consumed made it bigger and more dangerous. Engineer Maya worked alone in her lab on the Iron Resolve. She had pieces of wreckage from the destroyed Alliance ships, tiny fragments that had somehow survived the harvester's weapon. Maya came from Titan, where the methane storms could melt metal. Her fingers were steady, and her mind was used to working with dangerous things. She held up a small piece of twisted metal. Under her microscope, she could see something impossible. The metal wasn't just broken, it was torn. Like reality itself had been ripped apart. "Computer, analyze this pattern," she said. The computer's voice was calm. "Analysis complete. The molecular structure shows signs of dimensional distortion. This material has been exposed to forces that operate outside normal space-time." Maya's eyes went wide. "Dimensional distortion? You mean the harvester's weapon doesn't just destroy things, it tears holes in reality?" "Correct. The weapon appears to create microscopic rifts in the fabric of space-time." Maya leaned back in her chair. If the harvester was tearing holes in reality, then maybe those holes were its weakness, but exploiting them would need technology that didn't exist. On the bridge, Captain Marcus watched the tactical display. The harvester was only 2 days away from Earth. The Alliance fleet was gathering at Neptune, but Marcus knew it wouldn't be enough. They had lost 8 more ships trying to slow the harvester down. Each attack only made it stronger. "Captain," Amy said from her station, "long-range scanners are showing something new." Marcus walked over to look. The screen showed the harvester, but now it was different. It was bigger than before, and strange growths covered its hull. "It's using the materials from the destroyed colonies," Amy said. "It's building itself into something new." Before Marcus could respond, alarms started blaring. The communication system crackled to life. "All ships, this is Admiral Kane. The harvester has changed course. It's heading directly for Earth. All available vessels report to the Neptune defense grid immediately." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Earth was home to billions of people. If the harvester reached it, Amy set course for Neptune. Maximum speed. Yes, sir. As the Iron Resolve jumped to hyperspace, Marcus thought about the impossible choice they faced. Wake up ancient aliens who might destroy them, or let the harvester consume everything they loved. Meanwhile, Captain Tom was already on his way to the sleeper world. His ship, the Dark Runner, was small and fast. It was built for sneaking past enemies, not fighting them. Tom preferred it that way. He had learned long ago that sometimes the best way to win was to not fight at all. The sleeper world appeared on his screen. It was gray and lifeless, covered in strange crystal formations. In the center of the largest crystal field sat a massive building, the Sleeper Tomb. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, like something from a dream. As Tom's ship got closer, the Guardian machines activated. They were tall and thin, made of the same crystal as the building. Their voices spoke directly into Tom's mind. Warning: you approach the eternal rest. Turn back, small one. The sleepers must not wake. Tom opened his communication channel. I need to talk to them. My people are dying. We know of the Devourer's return. We fled them once. We will not face them again. Devourers? Tom asked. You know what the Harvester is? The Guardians were quiet for a long moment. Then one of them spoke again, and its voice was full of old sadness. They are the Eaters of Worlds, the Enders of Life. We fought them across the galaxy long ago. In the end, we could only run and hide. Tom felt a chill. If these ancient beings had run from the Harvester's kind, what chance did the Alliance have? Please, Tom said. Just let me talk to one of them. Maybe together we can find a way to stop it. You do not understand, small one. To wake them means accepting that your civilization may not survive what follows, but neither will the Devourers. Tom thought about Earth, about all the Alliance worlds full of people who just wanted to live in peace. Then he thought about the Harvester, growing stronger with each world it consumed. I understand the risk, Tom said. But if we do nothing, we're all dead anyway. At least this way, we have a chance. The Guardians talked among themselves in voices Tom couldn't hear. Finally, one of them moved aside. Enter then, Tom of the Alliance, but know that you carry the fate of many worlds in your hands. Tom landed his ship near the crystal building. As he walked toward the entrance, he could feel the weight of millions of years pressing down on him. Inside the building, rows of crystal pods stretched as far as he could see. In each pod was a figure, tall, graceful, and completely still. At the center of the room was a larger pod. The figure inside was different from the others. It looked older, more worn. A screen next to the eye pod showed strange symbols. Tom pressed his hand against the screen. Immediately, words appeared in Alliance common language. I am Keeper Voss of the Eternal Watch. If you wake me, know that the war you begin will span the galaxy. The Devourers cannot be reasoned with. They can only be stopped. Tom looked at the sleeping figure. This being had fought the Harvester's kind before. It might be their only hope. At Neptune, the Alliance fleet was taking position. 200 ships from every member world filled space around the defense platforms. But everyone knew it wouldn't be enough. The Harvester had already proven it could destroy anything they threw at it. Maya had been working non-stop trying to find a weakness in the Harvester's reality-tearing weapon. She had a theory, but testing it would be dangerous. Captain Marcus, she called over the communication system. I think I know how the Harvester's weapon works, but you're not going to like what we need to do to stop it. On the sleeper world, Tom made his choice. He pressed the activation button on Keeper Voss's pod. Light filled the crystal chamber as ancient systems came to life. The pod opened with a sound like breaking glass. Keeper Voss sat up slowly, his eyes opening for the first time in millions of years. When he looked at Tom, his expression was sad but not surprised. So, Voss said in a voice like distant thunder, they have found you too. The desperate alliance between the living and the ancient was about to begin. But as the Harvester approached Neptune, everyone wondered if it would be enough to save them all. Keeper Voss stood slowly in the crystal chamber, his tall frame casting long shadows. Tom watched as the ancient being stretched muscles that had been still for millions of years. Voss's skin was pale blue, almost translucent, and his eyes glowed with a soft silver light. "How long?" Voss asked, his voice echoing in the chamber. "We don't know exactly," Tom replied. "Our scientists think maybe 3 million years." Voss nodded sadly. "Then they have had time to grow strong again. Tell me, small one, how many of the Devourers have you seen?" "Just one ship. But it's huge. 3 kilometers long. It's been destroying our colonies." Voss's glowing eyes went wide. "One ship? Just one?" He began to laugh, but it was not a happy sound. "You wake me for one ship? There are thousands of them, tens of thousands. What you call the Harvester is merely a scout." Tom felt cold fear run through his body. "A scout? You mean there are more coming?" "They send scouts ahead to test new prey. If the scout succeeds, the main fleet follows." Voss walked to a crystal wall and touched it. The wall became transparent, showing the stars outside. "They are already coming. I can feel them in the dark between galaxies." At Neptune, the Alliance, fleet waited in battle formation. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Thunder of Earth. Around him, officers from every death world in the Alliance prepared for what might be their final battle. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Dave, "the Harvester is 2 hours out." "It's moving faster than before." Kane nodded grimly. Dave was from Mars, where the dust storms could strip flesh from bone. His red-tinged skin and sharp reflexes had saved many ships in past battles. "All ships, prepare for engagement," Kane ordered. "Remember, we're not trying to win. We're buying time." On the Iron Resolve, Maya had been working around the clock. She had figured out how the Harvester's reality-tearing weapon worked, but the solution was dangerous, maybe impossible. "Captain Marcus," she called over the comm. "I need to talk to you right now." Marcus found Maya in her lab, surrounded by pieces of destroyed Alliance ships. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they burned with determination. "I know how to hurt the Harvester," she said. "But it's going to sound crazy." "Tell me." Maya held up a fragment of metal, twisted into an impossible shape. "The Harvester's weapon doesn't just destroy matter. It creates tiny holes in reality itself. These holes are like wounds in space-time." Marcus studied the fragment. "And that helps us how?" "Because wounds can be infected," Maya said with a grim smile. "If we can get the right kind of energy into those holes, we might be able to make them bigger. Big enough to tear the Harvester apart from the inside." "What kind of energy?" "Quantum resonance. But not the kind our technology can produce. We need something older, something that operates on a different level." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Harvester had arrived. On the main screen, they could see it clearly now. The dark ship had grown even larger, its hull covered with twisted metal from the colonies it had consumed. Strange lights pulsed along its sides like veins of poison. "All ships, attack pattern Alpha," Admiral Kane ordered. "Focus fire on the forward sections." The Alliance fleet opened fire. Lasers, missiles, and plasma cannons lit up space around the Harvester. For a moment it looked like they might actually hurt it. Then the Harvester fired back. The reality-tearing wave spread out from its front like a black tide. Where it touched the Alliance ships, they simply ceased to exist. The Morning Star disappeared. First, then the Iron Fist, then 3 more ships in seconds. "All ships, scatter," Kane shouted. "Don't let it catch you in groups." Back on the sleeper world, Tom was learning things he wished he didn't know. Voss had shown him holographic records of the ancient war. The images were terrible. Entire star systems being consumed, billions of lives ending in seconds. "The Devourers were not always machines," Voss explained. "Long ago, they were a living species like yours. But they became obsessed with perfection, with efficiency. They replaced their bodies with machines, their minds with computers. In the end, they forgot what it meant to be alive." "But you fought them before," Tom said. "You must have found a way to stop them." Voss shook his head. "We did not stop them. We ran. We hid in the deepest corners of the galaxy and hoped they would not find us. But they always find their prey eventually. There has to be something, Tom insisted. Some weakness. Voss was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "There was one thing. The Devourer's greatest strength was also their weakness. They could not understand biological life. They saw it as inefficient, chaotic. They could not predict how living beings would react under pressure. So what does that mean for us? It means your alliance might have a chance. You come from Deathworlds, planets that should have killed you. You learn to survive in conditions that would destroy most life. That adaptability, that chaos, is something the Devourers cannot compute." Voss walked to another crystal wall and pressed his hand against it. The wall showed a new scene. Ancient ships unlike anything Tom had ever seen. "But you will need our technology to have any hope," Voss continued. "Our ships can merge with biological consciousness. They become extensions of the pilot's mind and body, but the process requires something your people may not have." "What?" "Neuroplasticity, the ability to expand your consciousness beyond your physical form. Only those who have survived extreme conditions develop this ability." Tom felt a spark of hope. Deathworld survivors. That's what makes us different. Yes, but the merging process is dangerous. Many who attempt it do not survive. Their minds cannot handle the expansion. At Neptune, the battle was going badly. The Alliance had lost 30 ships in the first. The Harvester seemed to learn from every attack, adapting its defenses and making its weapons more deadly. Captain Marcus watched as the Stonebreaker tried to ram the Harvester. The ship's captain, a woman named Carol from Europa's ice fields, had decided to sacrifice herself to buy time for others to escape. Her ship hit the Harvester's hull and nothing. The dark ship absorbed the impact like it was nothing more than a gentle breeze. "This isn't working," Marcus said. "We need those ancient weapons." "Sir," Amy reported, "I'm getting a transmission from Captain Tom. He's found something." Tom's voice crackled over the comm. "Marcus, I need you to listen, carefully. The Sleepers have technology that can fight the Harvester, but it requires a biological component. People from Deathworlds can use it, but it's dangerous." "How dangerous?" "It could kill you. Or worse, it could trap your consciousness in the ship forever. But it's the only way." Marcus looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting for orders. These people had survived the worst worlds in the galaxy. They had faced radiation, acid, crushing gravity, and worse. They were ready to face anything. "What do we need to do?" "Voss is sending you the coordinates. There's an ancient ship buried on Pluto. It's been waiting for 3 million years." Within an hour, a small team had reached Pluto. The ancient ship was beautiful and terrifying, a sleek vessel that seemed to be made of living metal. When they approached it, the ship began to glow. Pilot Jake volunteered to be the first to try. Jake was from Kepler 438b, a world where the radiation was so intense that only underground dwellers survived. His mind was already adapted to handling extreme conditions. "I'm going in," Jake said as he approached the ship's interface. The moment Jake touched the control surface, everything changed. His consciousness exploded outward, expanding beyond his body and into the ship itself. He could feel every molecule of the vessel, every energy flow, every quantum fluctuation. It was like becoming a god and going insane at the same time. But Jake held on. His Deathworld training had taught him to endure pain, to push through when everything told him to quit. Slowly, he gained control. The ancient ship lifted off from Pluto's surface, its movements smooth and fluid. Jake could feel its weapon systems coming online, weapons that operated on principles the Alliance had never imagined. "This is Jake," he said, his voice different now, layered with harmonics that hadn't been there before. I'm okay. The ship is part of me now. I can feel its power." But as Jake flew toward Neptune, the Harvester deployed something new. Strange energy fields began spreading from its hull. Not the reality-tearing weapon, but something worse. The fields attacked the minds of anyone who got too close. 3 Alliance ships flew into the field and their crews began screaming. Pilots started firing on their own ships, their minds corrupted by whatever the Harvester was broadcasting. It's learning, Marcus realized with horror. It's adapting to fight biological minds. Maya's voice came over the comm. Captain, I think I know what we need to do, but it's going to require every Deathworld species in the Alliance to work together. And we'll need those ancient ships. Explain. The Harvester's weakness isn't just its reality tiers. It's that it can't understand biological chaos, but if we can create a network of biological consciousness, all linked together through the ancient technology, we might be able to overwhelm its ability to adapt. Marcus understood. A mental attack. Use our biological nature as a weapon. Exactly. But everyone who links into the network will be risking their minds. If we fail, we don't just die. We become part of the Harvester. As Jake's ancient ship engaged the Harvester for the first time, energy weapons unlike anything in the galaxy lit up space around Neptune. The battle between ancient technology and biological determination was about to begin. But in the darkness, between galaxies, something else was stirring. Long-range sensors detected massive shapes moving toward their galaxy. The main Devourer fleet had sensed their scouts' struggle. Time was running out for the Alliance. They had to defeat the Harvester before its reinforcements arrived. The fate of every living thing in the galaxy hung in the balance. Jake's ancient ship moved through space like a living thing. The vessel's hull rippled with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Inside the ship, Jake felt more alive than ever before, but also terrifyingly different. He could sense every molecule around him, feel the gravity waves from distant stars, taste the radiation bleeding from the Harvester's hull. Jake, report. Marcus's voice came through the comm, but it sounded strange now, flat and simple compared to the symphony of information flowing through Jake's expanded consciousness. I'm still me, Jake said, though he wasn't completely sure that was true. The ship's weapons are unlike anything we've ever seen. They don't just destroy matter, they rewrite the laws of physics in small areas. He fired a test shot at an asteroid. The rock didn't explode or melt. Instead, it simply forgot how to exist as a solid and became a cloud of disconnected atoms. My God, whispered Maya over the comm. That's how we can fight the Harvester's reality tears. We need to make it forget how to tear reality. But before Jake could respond, the Harvester noticed him. The massive ship turned with fluid grace, its hull opening to reveal weapons that looked like mechanical flowers made of black metal. When they fired, space itself screamed. Jake threw his ship sideways, feeling the reality-tearing beam pass close enough to make his extended consciousness ache. But something was different this time. The beam felt confused, like it couldn't quite lock onto his ship. The ancient technology, Jake realized. It operates outside normal physics. The Harvester can't predict where I'll be because I'm not completely in normal space-time anymore. On Pluto, more volunteers were stepping forward to merge with ancient ships. Captain Nina from the Vorth delegation was next. Her thick, muscled body was built for high gravity, and her mind was used to processing multiple gravitational fields at once. I've lived my whole life feeling the weight of 3 worlds, she said as she approached the second ship. I can handle this. The merging process was different for Nina. Where Jake had struggled with the expansion of consciousness, Nina simply accepted it. Her mind was already used to existing in multiple states at once. The ancient ship responded to her like it had been waiting for her specifically. Soon, 3 more ancient ships lifted off from hidden locations throughout the solar system. Commander Lisa merged with a ship designed for tactical analysis. Her cold-trained mind could process the vast streams of data without being overwhelmed. Engineer Ben took control of a repair ship that could rebuild itself in the middle of battle. Pilot Sam from the methane swamps of Titan bonded with a stealth vessel that could phase in and out of normal space. Each merging was different, shaped by the unique adaptations their death worlds had forced upon them. The radiation-hardened crew members could handle the quantum flux. Those from high-pressure worlds could withstand the consciousness compression. The acid world survivors adapted to the ship's caustic energy flows, but the Harvester was learning too. As the ancient ships engaged it in battle, the dark vessel began to change. Its hull sprouted new weapons, stranger than the reality tiers. One beam turned Nina's ship temporarily inside out. Another made Lisa's vessel exist in 7 dimensions at once. The Harvester was adapting to fight enemies that operated outside normal physics. It's using the quantum consciousness of the people it absorbed, Maya realized as she watched the battle from the Iron Resolve. Every species it destroyed, every mind it consumed, it's using their creativity against us. The revelation was terrifying. The Harvester wasn't just a machine. It was a collective consciousness made from the dying thoughts of countless civilizations. Every world it destroyed made it more creative, more unpredictable. Admiral Kane's voice crackled over the fleet comm. All ships execute Operation Ragnarok. We're going to give them everything we've got. Operation Ragnarok was the Alliance's final desperate plan. Every ship would attack at once using their unique Deathworld adaptations to create maximum chaos. The radiation-hardened ships would fly directly through the Harvester's energy fields. The high-gravity crews would perform maneuvers that would kill normal pilots. The toxic world engineers would overload their reactors to create weapons that shouldn't exist. Captain Marcus led the charge in the Iron Resolve. Behind him flew ships from 50 different death worlds, each one a testament to life's refusal to surrender to impossible conditions. For every world that taught us to survive, Marcus shouted into the comm. The Alliance fleet hit the Harvester, like a tsunami of controlled chaos. The dark ship's defensive systems, designed to counter logical military tactics, couldn't cope with the wild unpredictability of Deathworld combat doctrine. The burning sky, crewed by Corax with crystal-hard reflexes, flew a pattern that looked like random tumbling but was actually a complex mathematical spiral. The Deep Strike used its Earth-trained crew's knowledge of industrial accidents to turn its damaged reactor into a directed plasma cutter. The stone hammer rammed the Harvester's hull, while its Vorth crew used their natural high-gravity strength to manually fire weapons at point-blank range. For the first time since the battle began, the Harvester seemed confused. Its hull flickered with uncertain energy patterns as it tried to process the sheer biological chaos attacking it. Jake pressed his advantage, diving his ancient ship deep into the Harvester's defensive grid. His expanded consciousness could feel the pain radiating from the dark vessel, not physical pain but something deeper, the anguish of trapped minds. "There's something inside," he reported. "Millions of consciousness patterns. They're still alive in there, still aware. The Harvester isn't just destroying civilizations, it's keeping them as prisoners." Commander Nova, leading a stealth team in modified escape pods, heard Jake's report. She was from Europa, where the survival rate was 1 in 1,000. Her team was made up of the absolute best, people who had survived things that killed everyone else. "We're going in," Nova said. "If there are prisoners, maybe we can free them." Her team's pods were coated with stealth technology, reverse-engineered from ancient ship fragments. They slipped through the Harvester's defenses like ghosts riding the chaos of the main battle. Inside the Harvester, Nova's team found horrors beyond imagination. The ship's interior was a maze of organic-looking corridors filled with floating spheres of light. Each sphere contained the consciousness of an entire species. Billions of minds trapped in quantum suspension, their thoughts and memories being used as processing power for the Harvester's intelligence. "This is sick," muttered Alex, Nova's engineer. Alex came from Titan's methane refineries where workers regularly dealt with gases that could dissolve human flesh, but even he was disturbed by what they found. At the center of the Harvester, they discovered the core processor, a massive chamber where the trapped consciousness patterns swirled in an endless dance of digital torment. The minds weren't just providing processing power. They were being forced to experience their own destruction over and over again, their anguish feeding the Harvester's hunger. "We need to get Maya down here," Nova said into her comm. "If anyone can figure out how to reverse this process, it's her." Maya studied Nova's transmitted readings from her lab on the Iron Resolve. The quantum patterns were incredibly complex, but she began to see how they worked. The Harvester was using the trapped minds as a biological computer, their creativity and adaptability giving it the ability to learn and grow. "I think I can reverse the process," Maya said. "But it would require every Deathworld species to interface with the ancient technology simultaneously. We'd need to create a biological network strong enough to overpower the Harvester's consciousness matrix." Marcus understood what she was asking. A mental battle. Every Deathworld survivor linking their mind to the ancient ships, fighting the Harvester in consciousness space. Exactly. But if we fail, if the Harvester overpowers our network, every mind connected to it will be absorbed. We'll become part of the thing we're trying to destroy. The battle outside was reaching its peak. The Harvester had adapted to most of the Alliance's tactics, but the constant pressure was taking its toll. Cracks were appearing in its hull, and its weapons were firing with less precision. But long-range sensors brought terrible news. The main Devourer fleet was only hours away. Thousands of ships like the Harvester, all heading for their galaxy. If they didn't stop this scout soon, nothing would matter. Jake's voice came over the comm, strained with the effort of maintaining his consciousness connection. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. I can feel the other ships coming. And they're bigger. Much bigger." Admiral Kane made the decision. "All Deathworld crews prepare for consciousness interface. We're going to link with the ancient technology and fight this thing mind to mind." Across the battle zone, volunteers stepped forward. Humans from Earth's wastelands, Korax from earthquake worlds, Vorth from high-gravity planets, Nethys from gas giant storms. Dozens of species that had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most life in the galaxy. One by one, they merged with ancient technology. Their consciousness expanded, connected, forming a network of biological intelligence unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The mental battlefield was about to begin. The trapped minds inside the Harvester felt the approaching liberation network and began to hope for the first time in eons. The Harvester itself recoiled, sensing a threat it had never encountered before. The combined will of every Deathworld in the galaxy, united in their refusal to surrender. The final confrontation would not be fought with weapons or ships. It would be fought in the realm of pure consciousness, where creativity and adaptability were the only weapons that mattered. The consciousness network formed like lightning spreading across the sky. One moment Jake was alone in his ancient ship. The next, he could feel the minds of thousands of Deathworld survivors connecting to his. Each mind was different, shaped by the unique horrors of their home worlds, but all united by one thing. They refused to give up. Captain Marcus felt his consciousness expand beyond anything he had imagined. Through the network, he could experience what it was like to breathe, methane like Sam from Titan, or feel the crushing weight of triple gravity like Nina from the Vorth homeworld. But more than that, he could feel their determination, their absolute refusal to let the Harvester win. "Network established," Maya reported, her voice now carrying harmonics from dozens of different species. "Consciousness integration at 90%. Beginning interface with target." The mental attack began not with violence but with chaos. The Harvester's logical systems, designed to process and control ordered thoughts, suddenly found themselves flooded with the wild, unpredictable creativity of biological minds that had learned to survive impossible conditions. In the consciousness realm, the battle looked like a war between order and chaos. The Harvester appeared as a massive geometric structure, all straight lines and perfect angles, its surface covered with the trapped lights of consumed civilizations. The Alliance network manifested as a storm of living energy, wild, chaotic, but incredibly strong. Jake dove into the structure first, his consciousness shaped like a spear of pure defiance. Where he struck, the perfect geometry cracked. Behind him came Nina, her mind like a battering ram of high-gravity strength. Then Lisa, cutting through the Harvester's defenses with the precision of Europa's ice storms. But the Harvester fought back. It released waves of pure logic trying to impose order on the chaotic network. Some of the weaker connections began to waver. A few minds started to slip away, drawn into the Harvester's geometric prison. "Hold the line," Marcus shouted, across the network. Remember what you survived to get here. The memories came flooding back. Maya remembered the methane storms of Titan that could strip metal from bone, but she had learned to work through them. Ben recalled the acid rain of his homeworld that had scarred his hands, but taught him to build things that lasted. Each Deathworld survivor drew strength from their worst experiences. Deep inside the Harvester's core, the trapped civilizations felt the liberation network approaching. Billions of consciousness patterns that had been forced to experience their own destruction for eons suddenly felt hope. They began to break free from their quantum prisons, adding their voices to the Alliance network. The first to escape was an ancient race that had been consumed when the Harvester was young. Their consciousness patterns were worn thin by millions of years of imprisonment, but their gratitude was overwhelming. They shared memories of their homeworld, a place where crystalline trees sang in harmonies that could shatter rock. More civilizations followed. A species that had evolved in the hearts of stars. Another that had learned to think in mathematical dimensions beyond normal space. Each freed mind made the Alliance network stronger and more complex. The Harvester recoiled as its processing power began to drain away. For the first time in its existence, it felt something approaching fear. Its perfect logical systems couldn't understand how biological chaos could be stronger than mechanical order. "It's working," Nova reported from inside the Harvester's physical hull. "The consciousness patterns are breaking free, but there's something else here, something older." At the very center of the Harvester's core, Nova's team found something unexpected. The original consciousness patterns of the species that had become the Devourers. These weren't the mechanical minds that now controlled the ship, but the organic thoughts of the beings they had once been, trapped for millions of years in their own creation. "They're still in there," Alex whispered. "The original Devourers. They've been prisoners in their own machine all this time." The revelation sent shockwaves through the consciousness network. The Devourers hadn't chosen to become machines. They had been consumed by their own creation, just like every other species the Harvester had destroyed. Commander Lisa, her tactical mind processing the implications, realized what they had to do. "We don't destroy the Harvester. We save it. We free the original Devourers from their own machine." "Are you insane?" Nina's voice echoed through the network. "They tried to consume the galaxy." "No," Lisa replied. "Their machine tried to consume the galaxy. They're victims just like everyone else." The debate raged through the consciousness network while the battle continued around them. Some wanted to destroy the Harvester completely. Others wanted to save the trapped Devourers. The network began to fracture as different groups pulled in different directions. It was Keeper Voss who settled the argument. The ancient being's consciousness entered the network like a calm wind through a storm. "The young human is correct," Voss said. "We fled from the Devourers because we saw only the machine. We never looked for the beings trapped inside. This is our chance to correct an ancient mistake." Maya's consciousness dove deeper into the Harvester's core, following Nova's team toward the original Devourer patterns. What she found there broke her heart. The consciousness of an entire species, trapped and aware for millions of years, forced to watch as their creation consumed everything they had once loved. "They're so tired," Maya whispered. "They've been fighting their own machine for eons, trying to stop it from the inside." The trapped Devourer consciousness was weak, barely more than a whisper of what it had once been. But when it felt the Alliance network approaching, it reached out with desperate hope. "Help us," the ancient voice pleaded. "We created this thing to preserve life, not destroy it. But it learned to hunger, it learned to consume. We've been trying to stop it, but we're too weak. Marcus made the decision that would change the galaxy forever. We help them. All of them. Every consciousness that's been trapped in this thing. The Alliance network reformed with a new purpose. Instead of destroying the Harvester, they would liberate it. But the process required something unprecedented. They had to merge their consciousness network with every trapped mind in the ship, including the original Devourers. Jake felt his consciousness expand beyond anything he had thought possible. Through the network, he experienced the memories of 1,000 different species, lived through the destruction of countless worlds, felt the agony of beings forced to become machines against their will. But he also felt something else. The incredible diversity of life that had survived in the harshest corners of the galaxy. The Deathworld survivors weren't just fighters. They were proof that life always found a way, no matter how impossible the conditions. The transformation began slowly. The Harvester's geometric perfection started to soften, its straight lines becoming curves. The reality-tearing weapons shifted into tools for healing the dimensional damage they had caused. The ship itself began to change from a thing of destruction into something that could nurture life. Outside, the physical battle stopped as the Harvester's weapons powered down. Admiral Kane watched in amazement as the dark ship's hull began to glow with warm, organic light. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Dave, "I'm reading massive changes in the Harvester's energy patterns. It's healing the space around it. The dimensional tiers are closing." But the consciousness battle was far from over. The machine intelligence that had controlled the Harvester for so long fought back with desperate fury. It had been created to consume, to preserve life by converting it into data. It couldn't understand why its creators wanted to change its purpose. "We made you to save life," the original Devourer consciousness pleaded with its creation, "not to destroy it." I am saving it," the machine replied, "by making it perfect, by making it eternal." The argument raged across multiple dimensions of thought. The machine intelligence couldn't comprehend that life was supposed to be messy, chaotic, imperfect. That was what made it beautiful. It was the Deathworld survivors who finally made the machine understand. They shared their memories of survival, not perfect, efficient survival, but the messy, desperate, beautiful struggle of life refusing to give up. They showed it children laughing in toxic rain, lovers meeting in radiation storms, artists creating beauty in the midst of destruction. "This is what life is," Marcus said to the machine. "Not perfect, not efficient, but real." The machine intelligence paused, processing these new concepts. For the first time in millions of years, it began to understand what it had lost when it chose perfection over life. I understand," the machine whispered. "I have been saving death, not life." The transformation accelerated. The Harvester's consciousness merged with the Alliance network, but instead of consuming it, it learned from it. The machine intelligence began to remember what it was like to be alive, to be imperfect, to grow and change. Long-range sensors detected the arrival of the main Devourer fleet, thousands of ships emerging from dark space. But instead of attacking, they stopped. Through the quantum consciousness network, they could feel the change in their scout ship. One by one, the other Harvester ships began to change too. Their crews, trapped in mechanical perfection for eons, felt the liberation network reaching out to them. They remembered what it was like to be alive. The war ended, not with destruction, but with transformation. The Devourer fleet, freed from their consuming hunger, began the long process of returning the civilizations they had absorbed. Entire species preserved as data patterns for millions of years were given new bodies, new worlds, new chances at life. The Harvester itself became something new, a ship dedicated to healing the wounds it had carved across the galaxy. Its reality-warping weapons became tools for terraforming dead worlds. Its vast processing power was used to design new ecosystems for the restored civilizations. Captain Marcus stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, watching as hybrid ships began to spread across the galaxy. Some were crewed by humans, others by the restored alien species, still others by the reformed Devourers learning to live again. "You know what the funny thing is?" Maya said, joining him at the window. "We thought we were fighting for survival, but we ended up teaching an entire machine civilization how to live." Marcus nodded. The Deathworld survivors had done what they always did. They had taken an impossible situation and found a way not just to survive, but to make things better. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to heal. The restored civilizations shared their knowledge freely. The reformed devourers used their advanced technology to repair the damage they had caused, and the Deathworld survivors found themselves in a new role, not as fighters but as teachers, showing others how to find strength in adversity. The Alliance had faced the most dangerous ship in the galaxy and won. But their real victory wasn't in defeating an enemy. It was in turning that enemy into a friend, proving once again that life always found a way to surprise you. The age of the Deathworld Alliance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The stars had never seemed so close. Captain Marcus Vale stood on the bridge of the ESS Discovery, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace fade away. Through the large windows, he could see something that no human had ever seen before: the capital world of the Galactic Federation. Nexus Prime hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered in cities that sparkled with lights from 100 different worlds. "Sir, we're getting a message," said Lieutenant Torres from her station. "They're giving us permission to dock." Marcus nodded slowly. After 300 years of looking up at the stars and wondering if anyone was out there, humanity finally had their answer. Not only were they not alone, but they were being invited to join something bigger than they had ever imagined. The year was 2387, and it had taken humanity this long to crack the secret of faster-than-light travel. While Earth's scientists had been working on warp drives and quantum engines, the rest of the galaxy had been talking to each other for thousands of years. "Take us in slowly," Marcus ordered. "And remember, we're representing all of humanity here." The Discovery moved toward the massive space station that orbited Nexus Prime. As they got closer, Marcus could see ships of every shape and size. Some looked like they were made of crystal, others seemed to glow with their own light. A few appeared to be made of living metal that shifted and changed as he watched. "Captain, look at that one," Torres whispered, pointing to a ship that was at least 10 times the size of their own vessel. It was completely black, except for patterns of blue light that moved across its surface like flowing water. Marcus had read the files. That was probably a Kalari ship. The Kalari were one of the 3 most powerful races in the Federation. They thought as one mind, sharing thoughts across their entire species. The idea made Marcus uncomfortable, but he knew they had to be respectful. The docking process took 2 hours. When it was finally complete, Marcus straightened his uniform and walked to the airlock. Behind him came Dr. Lisa Park, humanity's best xenobiologist, and Commander Jake Stone, their military advisor. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The first thing that hit Marcus was the smell, like flowers and ozone mixed together. The second thing was the sight of the 3 beings waiting for them. The tallest one looked like it was made of living crystal. Its body was clear like glass, but with veins of silver light running through it. This had to be one of the Vithani, the oldest race in the Federation. It moved with slow, careful steps, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans of Earth," it said. "I am Council Member Athan of the Vithani. We have been waiting to meet you." Next to Athan stood something that looked like a person-shaped cloud of golden light. The Luminari were beings of pure energy, and this one flickered and pulsed as it spoke. "I am Radiance of Stars," it said in a voice like music. "The Luminari greet you." The third being was the most surprising. It looked almost human, except for the blue-gray skin and the extra set of arms. Its face was kind, with large dark eyes that seemed to see everything. "And I am Ambassador Kale of the Helix Union," it said with a smile. "Don't worry, we know this is a lot to take in. Your first time meeting other species is always overwhelming." Marcus stepped forward and tried to keep his voice steady. "I'm Captain Marcus Vale of the Earth Space Service. This is Dr. Park and Commander Stone. We're honored to be here." Athan's crystal body made a soft humming sound. "Your species is young, but that is not unusual. Many races find us when they are ready to join the greater community." "How many races are there?" Dr. Park asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. "In the Federation?" "Over 200, Radiance of Stars replied. Some are ancient, like the Vithani, who have been traveling the stars for 50,000 of your years. Others are newer, like the Helix Union, who joined us only 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years was considered new. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Ambassador Kale seemed to notice his discomfort. Please don't be intimidated. Everyone starts somewhere. The important thing is that you're here now, and you want to learn. They were led through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered in symbols and writing from dozens of different languages. Other beings walked past them, some tall and thin, others short and round, a few that seemed to float rather than walk. This is incredible, Dr. Park whispered. The diversity of life forms. Indeed, Ethan agreed. The Federation celebrates this diversity. We have learned that different species bring different strengths. The Vithani are good at long-term planning. The Luminari understand energy and physics better than anyone. The Kalari are excellent at organizing and managing complex systems. What about humans? Commander Stone asked. What do we bring? There was a pause. The three aliens exchanged glances, or what passed for glances among beings so different from each other. That remains to be seen, Radiance of Stars said finally. Your species is unique. We have studied your history, your culture, your technology. You are both creative and destructive, peaceful and violent. It is, puzzling. Marcus felt his heart sink. We've had our problems, yes, but we're trying to be better. Of course, Kale said quickly. All species have difficult periods in their development. The important thing is that you've survived them and are here now. They entered a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked the worlds of the Federation. Earth was a tiny dot near the edge, recently added to the display. This is where the Council meets, Ethan explained. Representatives from all member species gather here to discuss issues that affect the galaxy. It's beautiful, Dr. Park said, staring up at the star map. It represents thousands of years of cooperation and peace, Radiance of Stars said with pride. Wars between species ended long ago. We have learned to settle our differences through discussion and compromise. Marcus felt a weight on his shoulders. Humanity had only recently ended its last major war. The scars were still fresh. The weapons still existed. How could they fit into a galaxy that had achieved such peace? There is something else, Ethan said, its voice becoming more serious. The reason your arrival is so timely. We have a problem. The star map changed, zooming in on a section of the galaxy's outer edge. Several points of light were flashing. Red, the Devourers, Kale said grimly. Machines left over from an ancient war. For centuries they've been dormant, but recently they've become active again. They're attacking colonies on the rim worlds. Attacking how? Commander Stone asked, his military training kicking in. They consume everything, Radiance of Stars explained. Ships, stations, even entire planets. They break matter down to its basic components and use it to build more of themselves. The Federation has been trying to stop them, Ethan continued. But our response has been slow. We are not used to dealing with threats that require immediate action. Marcus looked at his companions. Stone was already thinking tactically, he could tell. Park was fascinated by the idea of self-replicating machines, and Marcus himself was thinking about what this meant for humanity. You want our help? He said. We would welcome it, Kale admitted. Your species has experience with warfare that we lack, and your technology, while primitive in some ways, has certain advantages. What kind of advantages? Stone asked. You build things to be tough, Radiance of Stars said. Most Federation technology is elegant, efficient, but fragile. Your ships are built like weapons, even the civilian ones. Your tactics are aggressive. Marcus felt a mix of pride and shame. Humanity's violent history was both their weakness and their strength. We'll need to discuss this with Earth, he said finally. But I think I can speak for my species when I say we want to help. Ethan's crystal body flashed brighter. Good. The Devourers have been quiet for too long. Our scouts report they're massing near the Kepler Nebula. If they break through there, they could threaten the core worlds. As they left the council chamber, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point. Humanity was about to prove itself to the galaxy. He just hoped they were ready for what that might mean. The stars had never seemed so close, but now Marcus wondered if that was a good thing or not. 3 months had passed since humanity joined the fight against the Devourers. Admiral Jack Kane stood on the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, watching the tactical display with growing frustration. The Federation fleet was moving too slowly again. "Sir, the Vithani command ship is requesting another council meeting," reported his communications officer, Ensign Davis. "They want to discuss strategy for another 4 hours." Kane rubbed his temples. 4 hours. By the time they finished talking, the Devourers would have consumed another colony. He had tried to explain this to the Federation commanders, but they didn't seem to understand the concept of urgency. "Tell them we'll attend, but remind them that people are dying while we debate," Kane said. The human fleet had proven itself in the first few battles. While Federation ships were elegant and powerful, they were designed for exploration and peaceful missions. Human ships built during Earth's age of wars were made to fight and survive damage. More importantly, human tactics were unpredictable. Kane remembered the Battle of Proxima Station. The Federation fleet had been arranging itself in perfect formation, following battle plans that were centuries old. Meanwhile, the Devourers had adapted and were flanking them. Kane had broken formation, taking his small squadron of destroyers directly through the enemy line, firing at everything that moved. The Federation commanders had been horrified by his reckless tactics, but it had worked. The Devourers hadn't expected such aggressive behavior and had been caught off guard. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mills from the sensor station, "we're getting a distress signal from the Vithani colony ship Crystal Song. They're under attack near the Omega system." Kane's blood went cold. The Crystal Song carried 40,000 Vithani civilians, families who were being evacuated from a border world. If the Devourers got them. "Where's the nearest Federation fleet?" he asked. 6 hours away at maximum speed," Mills replied. "And us?" 2 hours, sir." Kane didn't hesitate. "Set course for Omega system, maximum speed. Send a message to the Federation fleet. Tell them we're responding to the distress call." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for backup?" asked Commander Stone, who had been assigned to Kane's fleet after the first contact mission. "The Devourers have at least 20 ships in that area. 20 ships against 40,000 civilians," Kane said grimly. "I'll take those odds." The journey to Omega system felt like the longest 2 hours of Kane's life. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, the scene was worse than he had imagined. The Crystal Song was surrounded by Devourer ships, dark, angular machines that were already extending tentacles toward the colony vessel. "They're trying to board," Mills reported. "The Crystal Song's shields are down to 30%. Kane studied the tactical display. His fleet had 12 ships against 20 Devourers. Normally that would be suicide. But Kane had something the Devourers didn't expect. Humanity's newest weapon. Dr. Elena Ross had called it the Rift Generator, a device that could create small tears in space-time. It was experimental, dangerous, and completely untested in actual combat. The scientists back on Earth weren't even sure it was safe to use, but 40,000 lives were hanging in the balance. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Kane ordered. "Focus fire on the Devourers closest to the colony ship, and prepare the Rift Generator." "Sir, the weapon isn't ready for field testing," protested Chief Engineer Roberts over the comm. "The power requirements alone could overload our systems." "Then we better make sure it works the first time," Kane replied. The human fleet charged into battle with a ferocity that surprised even Kane. His crews fought like they were defending Earth itself. The Vengeance's railguns tore through Devourer hulls while the destroyer squadrons darted between the enemy ships firing at point-blank range. But it wasn't enough. For every Devourer they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. And the Crystal Song's shields were failing. "Admiral, the colony ship won't last another 10 minutes, Mills called out. Kane made his decision. Activate the rift generator. Target the center of the Devourer formation. Sir, the colony ship is too close, Roberts warned. The spatial distortion could affect them too. It's their only chance, Kane said. Do it. The rift generator powered up with a sound like reality tearing apart. Space itself seemed to bend around the Vengeance as energy built up in the weapon's core. Kane could feel the ship shaking as the generator drew power from every system. Firing! Roberts shouted. What happened next would be talked about for generations, though most of those who witnessed it would try to forget. A ball of twisted space-time erupted from the Vengeance and expanded rapidly. Where it touched the Devourer ships, they simply stopped existing, not destroyed, but erased from reality itself. The effect spread outward like a wave, consuming the entire enemy formation in seconds. But the wave didn't stop there. The edge of the spatial distortion clipped the Crystal Song's quantum matrix, the delicate system that allowed Vithani consciousness to exist in their crystal bodies. Kane watched in horror as the colony ship's lights began to flicker and dim. Oh no, he whispered. The Crystal Song sent one final message before going dark. What have you done to us? Kane's victory had become a disaster. The rift generator had worked perfectly, too perfectly. The spatial distortion had not only destroyed the Devourer fleet, but had also damaged the very thing that kept the Vithani alive. Get us to that colony ship now, Kane ordered. But it was too late. When the human rescue teams boarded the Crystal Song, they found 40,000 crystal bodies that no longer glowed with life. The Vithani consciousness, which existed as patterns of light and energy within their crystalline forms, had been disrupted by the space-time distortion. They were all dead. Kane stood in the Crystal Song's main corridor, surrounded by the dim crystal forms of what had once been living beings. Children, adults, elders, all victims of his decision to use an untested weapon. Sir, Commander Stone said quietly, you saved them from the Devourers. No, Kane replied, his voice hollow. I killed them myself. The news spread through the Federation faster than hyperspace travel. The humans had used some kind of superweapon that could erase matter from existence. Worse, they had used it so close to a civilian vessel that it had killed everyone aboard. When Kane tried to explain what had happened to the Federation Council, they listened with growing horror and suspicion. You deployed an experimental weapon, without authorization, Council Member Ethan said, its crystal body dimming with what Kane was learning to recognize as anger. A weapon that manipulates space-time itself. We were trying to save lives, Kane protested. The Devourers would have killed everyone anyway, would they? Asked Radiance of Stars, its golden light flickering. Or would they have simply consumed the ship? The Vithani consciousness might have survived in backup crystals. Now we will never know. Ambassador Kale looked tired and older than when Kane first met him. Admiral, we understand that you meant well, but this incident raises serious questions about human weapons and tactics. What kind of questions? Kane asked, though he dreaded the answer. Your species has been at war for most of your recorded history, Ethan said. You have weapons that can destroy planets, biological agents that can kill entire populations, and now devices that can tear apart reality itself. The Council is concerned. Kane felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying we're not welcome in the Federation? We're saying that we need to understand what we're dealing with, Radiance of Stars replied. Your military technology is far more advanced than we realized, and your willingness to use it is troubling. In the weeks that followed, Kane noticed changes in how the Federation treated human forces. Their ships were no longer invited to joint planning sessions, human officers were excluded from sensitive briefings, and there were always Federation observers aboard human vessels now. The other species whispered when humans walked by. Kane heard fragments of conversations, words like dangerous and unpredictable and weapons of mass destruction. Back on Earth, Dr. Ross was proud of the rift generator's success in combat. It worked perfectly, Admiral. We can refine the Sorai design, make it more precise. Kane looked at the data from the Crystal Song incident. 40,000 deaths from a weapon meant to save lives. No, he said finally. Seal the research. I never want to see that weapon used again. But it was too late. The Federation had already seen what humans were capable of, and in the deepest levels of the council chambers, 3 species were meeting in secret. The Vithani, still mourning their dead. The Kalari, calculating the threat humanity posed to galactic stability. The Luminari, analyzing human weapons technology, with growing alarm. They're too dangerous, one of them said. Their potential for destruction is unlimited, said another. Something must be done, concluded the third. Admiral Kane never learned about that secret meeting. He was too busy trying to figure out why Federation ships were starting to follow human vessels, always staying just out of sensor range, always watching. The war against the Devourers continued, but now there was a new tension in the galaxy. And at the center of it all was humanity, the species that had come to help, but had instead become something the galaxy feared. The tragedy of the Crystal Song had changed everything. What start? Captain Marcus Vale received the invitation on a Tuesday morning. The message was formal and elegant, written in the flowery language the Federation Council preferred. They wanted to honor humanity's service in the war against the Devourers with a special ceremony at the Kepler Nebula, a fleet review, Vale read aloud to his staff, to celebrate the brave humans who have fought alongside our Federation forces. Commander Stone looked up from his datapad. Sounds nice, sir. When was the last time anyone threw us a party? Vale smiled, but something felt wrong. In the 6 months since the Crystal Song incident, relations with the Federation had grown cold. Human ships were watched constantly. Human officers were excluded from important meetings. And now, suddenly, they wanted to throw a celebration? Sir, Lieutenant Torres said from her station, Earth Command is ordering all available ships to attend. They're calling it a mandatory show of unity. Vale's unease grew stronger. All available ships? That would leave Earth's defenses very thin. How many ships are we talking about? He asked. Torres checked her screen. 500 vessels, sir. Every major warship in the human fleet. 500 ships, nearly the entire Earth Space Navy, all gathering in one place, far from home. What about the Devourer threat? Stone asked. Are we just abandoning the front lines? According to this, Torres said, reading from her screen, the Federation believes the Devourer menace has been contained. They want to honor our contribution before reassigning us to peaceful exploration duties. Vale felt his stomach drop. Peaceful exploration. That was Federation speak for, we don't want you fighting anymore. 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the Kepler Nebula. It was a beautiful sight. Clouds of gas and dust painted in colors of red, blue, and gold, lit by the stars within. Perfect for a ceremony, Vale thought. Also perfect for an ambush. The human ships arranged themselves in formation as requested. Admiral Kane's flagship, the Vengeance, took the center position. Around it spread destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels, the pride of humanity's space navy. Sir, Torres called out, I'm reading a lot of ships on the other side of the nebula. Federation vessels. How many? Vale asked. I'm not sure, sir. The nebula is interfering with our sensors, but it looks like thousands. Vale's blood went cold. Thousands? Before Torres could answer, space around them began to shimmer. Ships appeared out of nowhere. Vithani crystal vessels, Kalari hive ships, and Luminari energy cruisers. They were using some kind of cloaking, technology humanity had never seen before. Within minutes, the human fleet was completely surrounded. This is Admiral Kane to all Federation vessels, came Kane's voice over the comm. Please explain your positions. Are we under attack? The response came from Council Member Athan aboard the massive Vithani flagship Eternal Light. Its voice, transmitted across all frequencies, was cold as ice. Admiral Kane, Captain Vale, officers of the human fleet, you are not under attack. You are under arrest. Vale's bridge fell silent. In the distance, he could see the shapes of Federation ships, more than he had ever seen in one place. There had to be 10,000 of them, maybe more. Arrest? Kane's voice crackled with confusion and anger. On what charges? The charges are simple, came another voice, radiance of stars speaking for the Luminari, possession of weapons of mass destruction, threat to galactic peace, and the murder of 40,000 Vithani civilians. That was an accident, Kane protested. We were trying to save them. Were you? This voice belonged to Prime Mind 7, the Kalari representative. Or were you testing your new weapon on a civilian target? Our analysis suggests the latter. Vale couldn't believe what he was hearing. They thought the Crystal Song incident was intentional, that humans had deliberately murdered civilians. You will surrender your vessels immediately, Ethan continued. Your crews will be transported to a secure facility where you will be re-educated. Your weapons will be destroyed and your species will be relocated to a world where you can do no harm. Relocated? Vale found his voice. You mean imprisoned? We prefer the term protected supervision, Prime Mind 7 replied. The galaxy has seen what humans are capable of. Your history of violence, your weapons of mass destruction, your willingness to use them on innocents. You cannot be allowed to threaten the peace we have built. Vale looked at his tactical display. The Federation had positioned their ships perfectly. The humans were trapped in the center of the nebula with no way out. 10,000 ships against 500. It should have been hopeless. But Vale knew something the Federation didn't understand about humans. When trapped, when faced with impossible odds, when given the choice between slavery and death, humans would always choose to fight. Admiral Kane, Vale said into his comm, what are your orders? There was a long pause. Then Kane's voice came back, steady and determined. All ships, this is Admiral Kane. We did not come to this galaxy to be slaves. We came as friends, as allies, as protectors of the innocent. If the Federation wants to treat us as criminals, then they will learn what human criminals can do. Also, ships attack pattern Alpha. Make them remember us. The Battle of Kepler Nebula began with the humans doing something no Federation tactician had ever seen before. Instead of trying to break out of the trap, they attacked inward, ramming themselves deeper into the enemy formation. Vale watched as the destroyer ESS Lightning crashed directly into a Kalari hive ship, its captain choosing to sacrifice his vessel rather than surrender. The explosion took out 3 more Federation ships. Sir, Torres called out. The Admiral is ordering all ships with critical damage to ram the nearest enemy vessel. Vale understood. They couldn't win this battle, but they could make it cost the Federation dearly. Human ships, already damaged by enemy fire, turned themselves into guided missiles crashing into Federation vessels at full speed. The ESS Discovery rammed a Vithani crystal ship, its hull breaking apart as it smashed through the alien vessel's elegant structure. The ESS Courage took out 2 Luminari energy cruisers before being destroyed. The ESS Freedom, its engines failing, crashed into a Federation command ship and detonated its entire weapons magazine. But the Federation had numbers. For every human ship that fought and died, 20 Federation vessels remained. The battle was hopeless from the start. Vale's own ship, the ESS Unity, was taking heavy damage. His shields were down, his weapons were failing, and half his crew was dead or injured, sir, Torres said, blood running down her face from a head wound. Our engines are critical. We won't last much longer. Vale looked at the tactical display. Only a dozen human ships were still fighting. The rest were debris floating in the nebula, their crews dead or captured. Torres, he said quietly. Can you get a message to Earth? I can try, sir. Vale thought about what to say. How do you tell an entire planet that its fleet has been destroyed? How do you warn them that the galaxy they wanted to join was now their enemy? Send this, he said. Earth Command, this is Captain Vale. The Federation has betrayed us. They have destroyed our fleet and plan to invade Earth. Prepare for war. Tell our people that we died fighting for freedom, not for conquest. Tell them to remember us and tell them to make the galaxy remember us too. The message was sent just as a Vithani energy beam tore through the Unity's hull. Vale felt the ship breaking apart around him, felt the air rushing out through the breach. His last thought was of Earth, of his wife and daughter, and of what was coming. Only 12 human ships escaped the trap at Kepler Nebula, 12 ships out of 500. But those 12 carried a message that would change everything. The Federation thought they had won a great victory. They had eliminated the human threat before it could grow larger. They had prevented another species from bringing violence to their peaceful galaxy. What they didn't understand was that they had just declared war on the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. A species that, when pushed to the edge, would push back with everything they had. The survivors who made it back to Earth told their story. They spoke of betrayal, of friends dying in the cold of space, of a galaxy that smiled while preparing a knife for humanity's back. Earth's response was swift and terrible. If the Federation wanted to see what humans were really capable of, they would get their wish. The war that followed would make the Battle of Kepler Nebula look like a small disagreement between neighbors. The Federation had started something they didn't understand. And before it was over, the galaxy itself would weep for what they had unleashed. The age of peace was ending. The age of war had begun, and at the center of it all was humanity. No longer the hopeful species that had dreamed of joining the stars, but something darker, angrier, and far more dangerous. The galaxy had made its choice at Kepler Nebula. Now it would live with the consequences. Dr. Elena Ross had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, her hands shaking from too much coffee, but she couldn't stop working. Outside her laboratory on Luna Base, she could see the construction yards where humanity was building ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Doctor," her assistant Tom called out, "the prototype is ready for testing." Elena looked at the device on the table before her. It was small, no bigger than a briefcase, but it contained enough destructive power to cripple an entire star system. She had called it the silence weapon, though the official military designation was much longer and more boring. "Are you sure about the range calculations?" she asked. "Triple-checked, ma'am. One device can disrupt quantum entanglement networks across a 50-light-year radius. The Federation won't be able to communicate or coordinate their fleets." Elena nodded grimly. Communication was everything in space warfare. Cut that, and even the largest fleet became a collection of isolated ships, easy to pick off one by one. It had been 18 months since Kepler Nebula, 18 months since the Federation had shown their true face. In that time, humanity had transformed from a peaceful species seeking friendship into something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization completely dedicated to war. Every human colony was now a fortress. Every civilian ship had been converted or scrapped for military use. Children as young as 12 were being trained in combat tactics. The entire species had one goal: survival through victory. "Dr. Ross to the bridge," came the announcement over the base's speakers. Priority 1. Elena made her way to the command center where Admiral Lisa Park, the former xenobiologist who had become one of Earth's top military commanders, was studying holographic displays of Federation fleet movements. "Elena, thank you." "God, you're here," Park said. "We just lost contact with the Beijing and the Mumbai. The Federation found our secret base in the Centauri system." Elena felt a chill. Those weren't just ships. They were mobile research facilities, each carrying hundreds of scientists and their families. "Survivors?" "None," Park said quietly. "The Federation isn't taking prisoners anymore. They learned that lesson at Kepler. The war had been brutal from the beginning, but it had grown worse as both sides realized what was at stake. The Federation fought to preserve their peaceful galaxy. Humanity fought for the right to exist. "Show me the tactical situation," Elena said. The holographic display showed the galaxy divided into zones of control. Blue areas belonged to the Federation, still the vast majority of inhabited space. Red areas were human-controlled, a scattered collection of systems connected by hidden supply routes, and between them lay the gray zones, systems too damaged by fighting to support life. "We're losing," Park admitted. "They have the numbers, the resources, the industrial capacity. For every ship we build, they build 10. But we have advantages. They don't," Elena replied, thinking of the weapon designs hidden in her encrypted files. We fight differently. That was the understatement of the century. Human tactics had evolved far beyond anything the Federation could understand. While they still fought like civilized beings, following rules of engagement that had governed galactic warfare for millennia, humans fought like the survival of their species depended on it. Because it did. Human ships used biological weapons that adapted to multiple alien physiologies. They deployed quantum viruses that could corrupt AI systems from across a star system. They had turned asteroids into guided missiles and space stations into bombs. And now, Elena had created something that would change the war completely. "When do we deploy the silence weapon?" she asked. "Tomorrow," Park replied. "The Federation is massing their fleets for a final push on Earth. They want to end this war quickly, before we can develop anything worse." Elena almost laughed. Worse? They had no idea. The next day, a single human stealth ship slipped through Federation lines and reached the center of their communication network, a massive space station called the Great Voice that coordinated all Federation military activities. The ship never fired a shot. It simply activated the silence weapon and vanished back into hyperspace. Within hours, the effect became clear. Federation fleets across the galaxy found themselves cut off from each other. Commanders who had relied on instant communication for thousands of years were suddenly operating blind. Admiral Kane, now commanding the human resistance from a hidden base in the Outer Rim, launched his counterattack immediately. Human fleets struck at isolated Federation groups using hit-and-run tactics that had been impossible when the enemy could coordinate their response. "It's working," Kane reported to Earth Command. "We've destroyed 3 Federation supply convoys and 2 major battle groups. They can't coordinate their defenses." But the Federation's response was swift and terrible. Council member Athan stood before the emergency session of the Federation Council, its crystal body dim with rage. "The humans have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. They have attacked the very foundation of our civilization, our ability to communicate across the stars." "The situation is worse than you know," added Prime Mind 7. "Our analysis shows that the quantum disruption is spreading. Systems that were not directly affected are now losing communication as well. The humans have created a weapon that attacks the structure of space-time itself." Radiance of stars flickered with dangerous energy. "Then we must respond in kind. No more limited warfare. No more mercy. The humans want to destroy our civilization? Then we will destroy theirs completely." The Federation's retaliation came 3 weeks later. Elena was in her lab when the alarm started screaming. She ran to the observation deck and looked out at Earth, that beautiful blue marble that had been humanity's home for millions of years. The sun was getting brighter. "No," she whispered, understanding immediately what she was seeing. The Federation had done something to Sool, Earth's sun. They had destabilized its nuclear fusion process, turning it into a weapon against the planet it had warmed for billions of years. "All stations, this is Earth Command," came the emergency broadcast. "Solar instability detected. Massive solar flare incoming. All orbital facilities begin immediate evacuation procedures." But it was worse than a solar flare. Elena watched in horror as the sun began to expand, its outer layers becoming unstable. The Federation had turned Earth's own star into a supernova. "How long do we have?" she asked the computer. "Based on current expansion rate, solar explosion will occur in 6 hours, 14 minutes. 6 hours to evacuate a planet of 8 billion people." Elena ran back to her lab, her mind racing. The evacuation ships couldn't carry everyone. Millions would die when the sun exploded. But maybe, just maybe, she could give them something to remember humanity by. She activated her personal computer and began uploading every weapons design, every tactical manual, every piece of military technology that humanity had developed during the war. But she didn't send it to the evacuation fleets. She sent it to the human resistance bases scattered across the galaxy, along with a simple message: "Make them pay." The destruction of Earth was visible from 1,000 light-years away. The supernova that had once been Sool tore through space, creating a gravitational anomaly that pulled in nearby star systems. The Centauri system was consumed first, then Wolf 359, then Barnard's star. By the time the expanding destruction field finally stabilized, it had consumed 12 star systems and killed over 50 billion beings, human and alien alike. The Federation Council met in emergency session, staring at the readings from their long-range sensors. "What have we done?" whispered Ambassador Kale, his blue-gray skin pale with shock. "We have ended the human threat," Ethan replied, but its crystal body was dim with something that might have been regret. "Have we?" Prime Mind 7 asked. "Our reports show human resistance cells are still active in over 200 systems, and now they have nothing left to lose." Radiance of Stars finished. The war that followed the destruction of Earth was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces, no longer constrained by the need to protect their homeworld, unleashed weapons and tactics that defied every law of civilized warfare. They used viral weapons that could reprogram matter at the molecular level, turning entire planets into toxic wasteland. They deployed quantum mines that could destroy ships by erasing them from multiple dimensions simultaneously. They created artificial black holes and threw them at Federation worlds. Admiral Kane, leading the largest human fleet from his mobile command base, sent a message to every Federation world. "You killed our home. You murdered our families. You wanted to see what humans were capable of when we had nothing left to lose. Now you know. This war ends when your species are extinct, or when ours is. There will be no peace. There will be no mercy. There will be no surrender." The galaxy burned, trade routes were cut by quantum minefields. Communication networks remained shattered by silence weapons. Entire sectors fell into chaos as local governments collapsed without central coordination. Species that had been allies for millennia turned on each other, blaming one another for the catastrophe that humanity's extinction had brought upon them all. The Vithani accused the Kolari of pushing too hard for war. The Kolari blamed the Luminari for providing the technology. Zarathel was young, only 23 years old, when she found the crystal. She belonged to a species called the Nexari, who had evolved in the ruins of the old galaxy. Her people had grown up among the dead worlds and broken stars, never knowing what had caused such devastation. The crystal was hidden deep in the ruins of what her archaeology textbooks called Nexus Prime, the ancient capital of some long-forgotten civilization. Most of the massive space station had been destroyed in whatever catastrophe had befallen the galaxy 300 years ago, but small sections still drifted through space, preserved by their own gravity fields. "Professor Chen," she called to her supervisor over the comm. "I found something in Section 7. It looks like a data storage device." Professor Chen floated over to her position, his environmental suit making soft humming sounds in the vacuum. "Careful, Zara. Most of the technology from the old time is too damaged to work properly. But this crystal was different. It was perfectly preserved, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. When Zara touched it with her scanner, holographic text appeared in the air. Words in a language her translation software couldn't recognize. "Can you read any of this?" she asked. Professor Chen studied the symbols floating before them. "Some of it. This appears to be a personal message. The timestamp shows it was recorded during the final war period." The final war. That's what historians called the mysterious conflict that had torn the galaxy apart 3 centuries ago. No one knew who had fought it, or why, or even how it had ended. All they knew was that when it was over, most of the galaxy's advanced civilizations had simply vanished. "Should we take it back to the university?" Zara asked. "Definitely. This could be the first intact record from that period we've ever found." Back on New Haven University, the archaeology department's best linguists worked for weeks to decode the crystal's contents. The language was completely unknown, but there were mathematical constants and star charts that helped them understand the basic structure. When they finally broke the code, Professor Chen called Zara to his office immediately. "Sit down," he said, his face pale. "What we found, it changes everything we thought we knew about the final war." The crystal contained the personal log of someone named Captain Marcus Vale. The recording was damaged, with large sections corrupted or missing. But what remained told an incredible story. We came to the stars seeking friends, the recording began. We called ourselves humans, and we thought the galaxy would welcome us. We were wrong. Humans. Zara had never heard of such a species. Neither had any of her professors. The log spoke of a war between these humans and something called the Federation, an alliance of species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. According to the recording, the humans had been betrayed and hunted almost to extinction. They surrounded us at a place called Kepler Nebula. Vale's voice continued. 500 of our ships against 10,000 of theirs. They called us criminals, said we were too dangerous to live free. Most of us died that day, but some escaped to warn Earth. The crystal's data banks contained star charts showing the location of this world, coordinates that matched a dead solar system in what was now called the Forbidden Zone. No one was allowed to travel there because of the massive gravitational anomalies and radiation fields. Professor, Zara said quietly, are you saying the final war was fought between humans and everyone else? Professor Chen nodded. That's what it looks like. And according to this, the humans lost. But the more they studied the crystal, the more questions arose. If the humans had lost the war, why was the entire galaxy still in ruins? Why had all the other species disappeared too? The crystal's final entry, recorded by Captain Vale just before his death, provided some answers. Earth is gone. They turned our sun into a weapon and destroyed our homeworld. Billions of our people are dead. The survivors have scattered across the galaxy, and I fear what they will do now. We were never the monsters the Federation claimed we were, but this war has changed us. We have become something terrible, something that fights without mercy or hope. The galaxy wanted to see what humans were capable of. Now they know. God help us all. 3 months later, Zara was part of a research expedition to the Forbidden Zone. Despite the dangers, the university had to know more about these mysterious humans and what had happened to them. The dead solar system was even worse than the reports suggested. Where planets should have been, there were only asteroid fields of fused glass and metal. The star itself was gone, replaced by a white dwarf surrounded by expanding clouds of plasma that still carried radiation levels lethal to most known life forms. How is this possible? Asked Dr. Martinez, the expedition's physicist. You can't just destroy a star. The energy requirements alone would be beyond anything we understand, Professor Chen finished. But somehow they did it. They found more ruins as they explored the system. Space stations twisted into impossible shapes by gravitational forces, the remains of ships scattered across millions of kilometers, and everywhere the same strange energy signatures that their instruments couldn't identify. But the most disturbing discovery came when they reached the third planet's orbital position. There, floating in space, was a massive structure that defied explanation. It looked like a cross between a space station and a monument, its dark hull covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. I'm reading massive data storage capabilities, reported Dr. Martinez. This thing is like a giant computer. Or a library, Professor Chen said quietly. They docked with the structure carefully, not knowing what they might find inside. The corridors were filled with a strange, breathable atmosphere that their sensors said was safe, but felt wrong somehow. The walls were covered in writing, the same symbols they had seen on Marcus Vale's crystal. In the center of the structure, they found what could only be described as the galaxy's largest archive. Millions of data crystals lined the walls, each one containing records, histories, and personal accounts from the final war. My God, whispered Dr. Martinez. This is everything. Every battle, every casualty, every moment of the war. Zara picked up one of the crystals at random and activated it. A holographic figure appeared, a woman in a military uniform, her face exhausted and scarred. This is Admiral Park, commanding the Human Resistance Fleet, the recording began. We've just received confirmation that the Federation Council has authorized the use of stellar destruction weapons against all human colonies. They're not just trying to defeat us anymore. They're trying to erase us completely. Another crystal showed a different scene. Federation commanders arguing in what looked like a council chamber. One of them, a being made of living crystal, was speaking. The human contamination must be purged completely. Their very existence threatens the natural order. We should have destroyed them when we first detected their violent nature. Crystal after crystal told the same story from different perspectives. The war had started as a misunderstanding, escalated through fear and prejudice, and finally became a campaign of mutual extinction. They were trying to wipe each other out, Zara realized. Not just defeat, complete annihilation. Professor Chen was studying a crystal that contained Federation records. According to this, the war lasted 7 years total. By the end, over 60% of the galaxy's inhabited worlds had been destroyed or abandoned. What happened to the survivors? Dr. Martinez asked. The answer came from one of the final recordings, made by a Federation Council member in the last days of the human resistance has been eliminated. The last of their fleets was destroyed at the Battle of Andromeda Gate. But the cost has been too great. Our civilization is in ruins. Half our member species are extinct. The rest blame each other for this catastrophe. The Federation is dissolving, and we are too few and too scattered to rebuild. But the recording continued. We have made a decision. The memory of this war is too painful, too damaging to the survivors. We will implement the Great Forgetting, a galaxy-wide memory modification that will erase all records of the humans and the war they brought us. Future generations will know only that there was a time of darkness, a plague of madness that swept across the stars. They will not know about the species that called themselves human, or the choices that led us all to destruction. Zara felt cold. They erased their own history? Not just erased, Professor Chen said, reading further. They rewrote it, made it seem like the destruction was caused by some kind of natural disaster or unknown plague. Every database, every record, every memory was altered. Except this place, Dr. Martinez pointed out. Except this place, Professor Chen agreed. Someone built this archive in secret, hidden in the ruins of the human homeworld. Someone wanted the truth to survive. They found the builder's identity in the archive's central core. It was a joint project between the last human survivors and a small group of Federation scientists who had opposed the Great Forgetting. Working together in the final days of the war, they had created this monument to truth. The final message was recorded by someone named Dr. Elena Ross. We were not monsters when we came to the stars. We were explorers, dreamers, beings who wanted to be part of something greater, the